In the previous lesson, you learned how to divide a number by a two-digit divisor where the quotient is one digit. Now in this lesson, we are extending that to now include answers with two digits. So what we're going to do is the same thing we did in the last lesson, but now we're going to repeat the process a second time to get your second digit of the quotient. So we have a couple examples to work through. Example 1, we have 837 divided by 31. So your steps will be the same as with a regular division problem. We're going to divide, then multiply, then subtract, and then bring down the next number. Alright, so here what we're doing is we need to begin by seeing 8 divided by 31 and see what that gives us. And that doesn't work because 8 is too small, so we extend that to 83. We can do 83 divided by 31. So the question is, how many times does 31 go into 83? So when you're doing this, you can kind of mentally estimate our number because 31 is close to 30, right? So if we were to figure out what multiplies with 30 to get a number close to 83, if we did a 2 times 30 is 60. If we tried 3 times 30 is 90, which is a little too big, right? Let's try a 2. So it looks like 2 might work. Let's put a 2 up here, and then we can, for step 2, multiply 31 by the 2. That would give you a 2 and then a 6, so 62 is what goes right here. And then we can do step 3, which is subtract. 3 minus 2 is 1, 8 minus 6 is 2, so now we have 21. So far so good because 21 is less than 31. So we're doing the right number. And now from here we can do the next step, which is bring down. So you bring down the 7 for 217 and then repeat the process. So again, 31 is close to 30, and you can kind of estimate in your head to see what multiplies with 30 to get close to 217. Well, 30 times 7 would be 210, right? 21 with the 0. So that's pretty close. Let's try a 7. So let's put a 7 up here, and then we can multiply 31 times 7. 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 3 is 21. That would give you 217, which is perfect because when you subtract, we have no remainder. So 7 was the correct number, and that means your final answer would be 27. So 27 with no remainder. And if we wanted to, we could double check our work by multiplying the 27 by the 31. So if you do that, we should be getting 837 back out. So let's try that. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 times 2 is 2. Then you put a 0 down here and repeat with the 3. 3 times 7 is 21. So take the 1 and then carry the 2. 3 times 2 plus 2 would be 8. So now you can add those together. 7 plus 0 is 7. 2 plus 1 is 3. Then you have an 8 in the front. So notice that is the exact same number as the dividend. So that means our answer of 27 is correct. Let's try another example. Here with example 2, we are dividing 621 by 54. So for step 1, we are dividing, and so you would have to take a look at the 6 and the 2 and try to divide that by 54. So that does work. 54 can go into 62, and that can only go in one time, right? 2 times would give you 108, so 2 is already too big. So let's put a 1 up here. So then we can do step 2, which is multiply 1 times the 54, and that gives you 54. Step 3 is subtract 62 minus 54, and that gives you 8. And then step 4 is bring down the 1. So bring down the 1 and repeat. Now we can do 81 divided by 54. Well, again, 54 only goes in 81 one time, because if you try 2 times 54, that gives you 108, and 2 is too big. So it's just going to be a 1 again. So we have a 1 up here, and then step 2 is multiply. 1 times 54 is 54. We subtract 81 minus 54. We need to borrow from the 8. Now we have 11 minus 4 to get 7. 7 minus 5 is 2. So 27 would be the remainder. So your solution is 11 with a remainder of 27. So now that we have our answer, we could double check our work to see if we got it correct. And to do that, we would do 54 times 11 and then add that with the 27. So let's try that. 11 times 54, or 54 times 11, same thing. So if you do this, we do 4 times 1 to get 4. 4 times the other one gives you another 4. Put a 0 down here and repeat. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times the other one is 5 again. Then you can add these together. We have 4, 9, and 5. So you multiplied, and now we need to add the remainder. So we take 594 and add the remainder of 27. And if you add that, 4 plus 7 is 11. So take the 1, carry the 1. 1 plus 9 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So take the 2, carry the 1. And then 1 plus 5 is 6. So 621, that matches with the dividend. So therefore, we can conclude that our solution is correct. If those numbers did not match, that means our answer was incorrect. Now let's take a look at one more example. Here we are dividing 942 by 13. Alright, so to do this, what we need to begin with is divide. So we're dividing the first two numbers, the 94, by 13. Alright, so when you divide, you're trying to figure out how many times does 13 go into 94. So you could estimate the 13 is close to 10, and then what times 10 would give you something close to 94, and that would be 9. Alright, 9 times 10 is 90. But 13 is bigger than 10, so let's try maybe something a little bit smaller. We could start with an 8 maybe. So if you start with an 8, 8 times 13, we'd have 3 times 8 is 24, so take the 4, carry the 2. 8 times 1 plus 2 is 10. So that's 104, that's still too big because it needs to be smaller than 94. So instead of an 8, let's try a 7. So we put a 7 up here, and then step 2 is multiply. So we do 13 times 7. 7 times 3 is 21, so take the 1, carry the 2. 7 times 1 plus 2 is 9. So that works because that gives us 91, and then we could subtract 94 minus 91 to get 3. And then step 4 is bring down. So we bring down the 2. Now we have 32, and then we can repeat the process. So we do 32 divide by 13. So we're asking how many times does 13 go into 32. This one, if you tried 3 is too big because 3 times 13 is 39. So we're going to want the number 2. So let's put a 2 here. 2 times 13 is 26. And then step 3 is subtract. 32 minus 26. That would give you 6. So 6 would be the remainder. So your solution would be 72 with the remainder of 6. And we could double check our work to see if we did it correctly. We would do 13 times 72. Then we have to add the remainder of 6. So 13 times 72, and then add 6, and let's see what that would give us. So 13 times 72, or 72 times 13, same thing. We would do 3 times 2 to get 6. 3 times 7 gives you 21. Put a 0 here and repeat. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 7 is 7. Now we can add 6 plus 0, 1 plus 2, and then 2 plus 7. That gives you 936. Then you add that with the remainder of 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. So take the 2, carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. And then 9 in the front. That gives you 942, which matches with the dividend. So because those two numbers are the same, that means your solution is correct. If those were not the same, that means your answer is incorrect. So notice division with two different digits in the quotient is the same thing as dividing with one digit as the quotient. It's just doing the process one extra time. So if you can divide these numbers here, you can divide any length of numbers because If you put a number after 942, if you put a 4 over here, all you do is bring down the 4 and repeat the process another time. All right, so if you can do these, you can do any number of digits because it's the same thing being done over and over again. And that concludes our lesson for today. We will see you next time.